Hello, guys, and welcome back to another episode of My Codes. We're actually doing pretty well this week. We're doing two videos this week. That's exceptional stuff. But yeah, I think today we're gonna, if you're following the series, we're still doing a project. So if you go down and link below, it will have all the URLs on there for the page, the other videos. So we're currently doing a tutorial on how to build applications in Flask, which is a Python module. But today we're going to talk about a topic I came across recently, and I think it's quite interesting. And I think as a new developer, if you're learning to code, I think it's something that you should be aware of at the very least, and probably look to research because it will definitely affect, future roles that will come up, and of course, the way in which we interact with the internet. So we'll go straight into it. We're going to talk about Web 3.0, just to give you a quick information about it, information basis, and I think you should go ahead from here onwards and research and come to your own conclusion about it. But the first thing, the interesting thing here about Web 3.0 is that it's derived from first Web 2.0, which obviously then came from Web 1.0. Web exactly what you do now when you visit a website, you go in, you log in, for example, Facebook, all the social media stuff. However, one thing about Web 2.0 you have to bear in mind is that it was literally driven off by three key elements. The first being mobile, which is kind of like the mobile phone, so smart mobiles. This encouraged companies to be able to essentially go from just hosting static applications to now hosting dynamic applications. And then the second drive for Web 2.0, and what I mean in simpler terms is the fact that the current internet you see, in which you're able to kind of go and access any website you like, and then kind of do extract information from there. That's made capable because of the second element here, which is cloud. Cloud has had an exceptional influence for numerous online-based companies, in the sense that it firstly allowed them to completely cut their cost. Now, if you think about it this way, there are billions of people online. So if a company wanted to host their website, host their information or their company on the internet, they have to think about the fact that how many people are going to access their website. Do they have enough capital to meet this increase of demand? And of course, demand is not always going to be consistent. So they'll have seasonal burst of requests on their website. And so cloud is an exceptional tool, specifically AWS, which is what I'm familiar with, and so GCP. It allows you to rent extremely high amounts of computing power to meet business needs. And so if, for example, you're a business owner and you know that on Fridays between 1 and 5 p.m. you will get at least say 200 people on your website per second. Now, if you don't have enough capital to meet that demand, previously companies would have to think about buying physical computing power, and of course taking care of the maintenance of those computing power, the cooling power of these infrastructures, things like that. These will all add cost. That's just even before they've even attempted to satisfy the needs of them. It gives this ability whereby companies can go on the internet, go to a cloud vendor, for example AWS, and tell them, well, not tell them physically, but essentially look at the demands and say, okay, we get a high burst of customers at this particular hour, and so at this point we want to rent a high amount of computing power, whether that's numerous amount of computing power or just a large amount of processing power in one go. Rent that and literally satisfy those customer requests. And if that's the case, they can go ahead and rent those infrastructures, and it alleviates them. Firstly, it's cost effective for them, and secondly, they just know that they can now just focus on what's important to them, which is their business logic. And so that's been a massive driving force for Web 2.0. And thirdly, just because of social media, the world has become extremely interconnected, and so social media companies have had to be incredibly innovative about how they allow this growth to happen, and how they can essentially meet these exceptional demands, which is the driving force of Web 2.0, and which is one of the three reasons why the internet is in the current I guess innovative stage it's at, in that you can kind of go on any website and be able to access these information quite quickly, based on the fact that companies are now able to meet demands and be able to satisfy what their customers want. Now we come to Web 3.0, which is literally, in very simple terms, it's the upgrade of our current internet. It's, if you like, the next best thing. And there's a number of reasons why I think it's going to be an exceptional addition to humanity and to what we can do on the internet. The three driving force literally for Web 3.0. The first being that it's open source, and it's built from open source softwares. And so what that means is that anyone who's kind of capable of adding code to it can go in and if there's issues on there, you can kind of give it a go and try and solve it. Also, kind of add in your own innovative kind of code in there. And the second thing, pushing Web 3.0. Bear in mind, of course, with Web 2.0, a lot of, I guess, technological issues have been solved with that, but there's still a few things which hasn't been solved, which is, for example, trust. When you go on a website, you have to almost every single time log in, create new logins for that website, which I'll talk about later on. And so with Web 3.0, it alleviates that side from it. You'll be able to go to a site and literally, through certain capabilities on there, essentially be able to access information from a site without necessarily having to create password and emails every single time, which we'll talk about that also. And then the third thing, which is also another driving force for Web 3.0, is that it's permissionless. And what that means is that you don't no longer need permissions from any governing body for you to go on a website and literally purchase. So, for example, if you're a supplier, if you're an entrepreneur, and you put your products or your business on the internet, currently there's also a situation where there will be a fee charged, and usually facilitate a middleman. Web 3.0 actually looks to remove that factor and allows businesses to be able to literally meet the demands of their customers, and of course for the customers or for the internet user to be able to go to whatever sites you want to visit without having to kind of go through the middlemen side of things. And then of course with that there's, for Web 3.0, there's three big pillars of it. The first being that it will encourage and it will also increase the use of edge computing. Now, edge computing is another cloud concept. And if you imagine it this way, for example, when you access a site, your database, and you create your information on that site, your database essentially is kept in their servers somewhere in the world. Now, imagine if you were, for example, in the UK and you've accessed a site in, for example, another country, say Germany, and the data center is in Germany. You have to think about the fact that every time you log in data is going to have to be literally extracted and compared against in another country. And so with edge computing, cloud companies are able to build data centers closer to where they know clients are going to be. And then what they can do is they can cache, if you like, they can cache data in those data centers. And so rather than you having to literally access the website from the country, you can actually access it from the nearest data center, which would be the edge computing. And one of the marvelous things about this thing is, and there's a concept within cloud whereby often when you change your database, or if you went in and amended certain things on a website you went and visited, of course that information has to be first updated at the actual original data center, and then sent back to the edge, the data center closest to you. And so there's no concept to allow you to kind of access your data and update your data without any downtime in between that. And then the second pillar, and these are all three of these are technologies that are driving kind of like the utilization of Web 3.0. The second one being decentralized data networks. This is an extremely exceptional method in the sense that instead of having all your database in being hosted by kind of like one company, which puts you at risk in the sense that firstly your data is no longer, you don't own it as much, and secondly it brings that element of security in question. You can have centralized, decentralized data networks, which puts you more in control of what happens to your data. And the third technology driving Web 3.0 is artificial intelligence. I think we've come to the point in technology whereby there is more work than the human brain can process at once. And so being able to rely on artificial intelligence to learn behavioral patterns, our behavior patterns online, as well as behavior patterns in the real world, and try and make reasonable predictions will not only save time but will prevent certain things from happening. I remember last year I came across an article which it actually looked at, so there was a company I read about who had developed artificial intelligence which could essentially recognize the amount of searches individuals were doing online, and then use that to predict exactly when, for example, traffic would go up, or for example when there was a flu outburst in a specific area, and that's made possible by artificial intelligence. But with Web 3.0, data can be quickly learned and applied to, and certain predictions can be made. With these certain predictions, obviously, right now, because it's an unknown topic, it can be a little bit daunting. However, I think we have to bear in mind that the point is to be able to allow us to get to our results faster. And so, for example, say you want to write, you have an idea in your head, a project in your head you want to complete, and you're able to utilize artificial intelligence to help you predictively arrive at your result in, say, you were supposed to do it in 6 months, you can arrive at your results in 2 months. That exceptional time that you've saved will allow you to then kind of implement your business logic much more further than you would have, and gain more progress much more than you would have. And I think, and hence I think artificial intelligence, given obviously the disadvantage of it, I would still side with it. I think it's very important and something that we should definitely push for. And so all in all, I think the three main advantages of Web 3.0 when it's fully implemented, it's the fact that it removes the middleman from it. You can, if you're a business owner, for example, and you've got customers, instead of going through, especially when it comes to transactions, instead of having to go through a third party to facilitate this, and of course having to pay that fee to that middleman, you essentially remove that from there, and it allows literally transition from the client straight to the supplier immediately. The second being that data sharing between humans, enterprises, and machines with more security assurances and privacy. So essentially, it's safer. It's much more safer, and what that means is, so imagine this way: when you go to a certain website right now, you have the option to either log in with Facebook, log in with Google, log in with Twitter. Now imagine if you could do that for every single site, whereby instead of having to log in with either Facebook, Instagram, or something like that, you can log in with Ethereum, or you can log in with blockchain, which is vastly much safer. And the third, which links me to my third option, which is the fact that you can own our own data and digital footprint, which is extremely important. When you log into a new website and you have to create an account, they essentially have ownership of the data that you've given them, and in some situations, companies do end up selling that data and profiting off that. Now with Web 3.0, there will be an input whereby you can access sites without physically not having to create data on that. So you will have your original, I guess your original identity, online identity, whereby if you want to access a new website, you authenticate through your original identity, and so it won't necessarily give your information, but it will be able to prove that if the website requires that you're above the age of, for example, 18 or 21, it will be able to prove that you qualify these I guess these metrics without necessarily having to create create an account and prove that that is the case. And so these three advantages I think are going to be quite exceptional, and yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how the whole thing plans out. But yeah, have a look into this into Web 3.0, and yeah, give me your feedback on that within the comment section. But yeah, I'm very happy to be able to share this particular thing with you. Like I said, if you're new to software and technology, these are things that you need to kind of be aware of, just because of the fact that technology is always moving and it's always changing, and what you're currently learning, whatever language you're learning, of course, it will be applicable in terms of projects. It will be applicable if you want to create something. However, business needs is quite important. So staying ahead of, I guess, changes will allow you to perform within work, and also within kind of your own projects as well. But thank you very much for your time. I hope you learned something here also, and we'll see you in the next video.